Hey, Married at First Sight fans, welcome back to the channel with me, Shantia. So today we're going to get into this review for season 15. I honestly forgot what episode we're on. I think we're on 11, so let's just proceed there. So in this episode, all of the couples got to meet with Dr. Pepper, and they also had an opportunity to write themselves a letter to their past selves, their younger self. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and dive into that. And as usual, I'm going to go in the order that I typically go in. I really appreciate the support for the channel. Make sure you continue to hit the like, subscribe to support the channel. And I always read all of you guys' comments. I really appreciate any kind of feedback that you guys have to give. And yes, you guys are extremely insightful. So please share your opinions and please share what you have to say, because I think, again, build up that platform, like speak your truth, share your truth with the world so that other people can understand how can we get ourselves out of these situations that we're stuck in. And let's be honest, like, as much as, it's easy to judge, I'm also judging myself because I most definitely have participated in some of the behaviors and the emotions and the activities of the other couples before. So it's like I see what they're doing because I see myself in them to some degree. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with our first couple, Lindy Mcgill. Make sure you guys comment down below. Tell me how you feel about all the couples. How are we feeling about Lindy Mcgill? How are you guys feeling about them? I think this week was a smooth sailing for them. I think they're continuing to get along, see one another, recognize one another, talk to, communicate with one another. Honestly, I think what's helping a lot, it's a combination of things. So like Miguel, to me, he's a very effective communicator. He has a great temperament, and he's opening his heart. So that's what's helping them to succeed. On Lindy's side, I feel like she's understanding certain behaviors or recognizing certain behaviors that she's participated in that hasn't served her in relationships. She's fully admitted, I've gotten away with, what did she say? She's gotten away with murder in previous relationships, and partners would just put up with certain behaviors of hers. But now she's deciding, because she has respect, right? She has respect. This is her husband. It's a, hold on. Let me make sure my shirt is tucked in. It's a whole nother level of commitment for her. And because she's seeing that it's a whole nother level of commitment for her, she's wanting to put forth that work. I don't know, let me just brighten this up. It's a little blurry. I don't know. It looks a little blurry to me, but I can't tell. Okay. Yes, so there really wasn't too much new eye-opening experiences for Lindy Miguel. I think so far I'm really happy with how they're progressing forward because they're allowing the love, the emotions to guide them. Miguel finally said I love you, or I'm falling in love with you, and he said that was like the easiest thing for him to experience with Lindy. And Lindy's going to get health insurance now, so everything is just moving in the right direction for them. I think overall, I'm just happy with Lindy's progress. I think she is recognizing her behavior and seeing what she can do better and what she cannot do better. There are some points where when I'm hearing her talk, I feel like there is some immaturity. And the only thing that kind of concerns me just slightly, I don't know, because I'm not watching them 24/7, is it just seems like she does talk a lot. And the only time I was really hearing Miguel talk about his story was when he was talking about his story, when they were in that museum, or the place, the house of Puerto Rico, and he was talking about his culture, and she was, giving him the floor. So obviously, to some degree, there must be a really nice push and pull dialogue going on between the two of them for him to be feeling like, okay, I'm seen in this relationship. Obviously, they're doing something that's working, but there are times where I just wonder if she talks too much, because it's just something to take into consideration, because as women, we do talk. And someone was saying the other day that men are actually better listeners because I think women talk. Well, we have a tendency to talk, and we can talk and talk and talk, and I think it's a very nurturing quality, um, that we have, like our communication skills. We're much more advanced communicators. We learn how to communicate sooner than men, and that's also evolutionary proven, and it's in science as well. So that's just the thing. The other thing I wanted to add was that Lindy, what is it? They were dancing. I thought that was cute. I think, oh, she was also talking about her culture. She was talking about all of the the limitations she experienced growing up. And I thought that was interesting because I was like, oh my gosh, very restricted, right? She didn't see her parents drink. She didn't see her parents eat pork, like very restricted. Didn't dance. I don't know. I think at this point she kind of knows. I don't know how long she's pulled away from her from that experience. Maybe it's been about 4 or 5 years, but or after college is when she decided to separate herself from that experience. But it just sounds like she's still processing a lot. So sometimes it seems like she's still really healing from the experience, and it almost seems like Miguel is sort of like therapy when he's talking to her, like, when he's guiding her through that experience. That's the only thing that kind of concerns me just a little bit. I know we talk to our partners, and that's just absolutely 1000% normal. Just because I've seen her do it in the past, I would just watch for that habit of wanting to spew my entire story and like all of the pains and troubles. And I know it helps sometimes to say it out loud, but as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter how often you talk about it. Like it's good to talk about it, but be intentional about it and be present when you're doing it. Because sometimes we talk and talk and talk, but we're not processing our emotions. We're not processing what's going on. So we're just intellectualizing the whole experience, and we're bypassing the actual healing that needs to happen. So that can exhaust someone if they're having to hear your story. I've seen this in relationships, so this is why I'm also saying this. Like people, they want to talk about their story and their trauma, and they just keep rehashing it over and over again. They're not healing from it. So, as long as you catch yourself and you take from it what you need to take from it, the self-awareness, the learning, and then proceed forward and be like, okay, I learned this from this experience. I learned that I don't want restriction for myself nor my kids. Time to move on. I've healed from the experience. I've let it go. But I just feel sometimes when I'm looking at her, she feels young in that sense, like she's still healing from that experience of the repression, which is totally understandable. Just make sure you're not treating your spouse like your full-time therapist. They could be a part-time, maybe. Even that can be a little touchy, but don't treat them like a full-time therapist, and make sure you're feeling the emotions and you're processing the emotions. As far as Miguel goes, I don't know. I think he's doing great. I really have nothing to say towards him. Sometimes he just, he seems really happy about the whole situation. And, his thing is to just watch for not people pleasing or being too passive about certain situations that need to be confronted right away. So as long as he's tackling any kind of concerns right away and he's communicating to Lindy his concerns, then they should be fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to our next couple, which is Kristen and Mitch. Okay, so Kristen and Mitch, yeah, this was really an eye-opening episode for Kristen and Mitch. Kristen finally just really like, whew, right? She just let it out. Finally, she let all her emotions out. She just let how she really felt out. And I'm proud of her. You know, it's not, the thing is, our partners or the people around us, they're not the reason for those experiences, especially if you've only been together for a short period of time. They're the trigger for it. They're the button. So Mitch, in this heightened situations, triggered all of these emotions in her, and she realized, oh my gosh, I'm a perfectionist, right? And I was totally getting that from her. Even before she said that, I was like, Kristen and Stasia to me give me perfectionist projector energy. Like Kristen specifically, I always feel like she empathizes so much with people. She's wanting to, right? Perfect daughter, perfect wife, perfect girlfriend, always being something for everybody else but yourself. So that was like the eye-opening, beautiful experience. I think Kristen has a beautiful personality. I love her positivity, but she caught that. She even used the words, I overcompensate. And I've been saying that from my first review, is she overcompensates because she feels like she needs to. She grew up too fast, right? She didn't take the time to just be a kid and be present. So now she's having to process that. So I think that's fantastic that this experience is bringing that out of her, and she's experiencing this with Mitch, and she's speaking up. Yet at the same time, she's not letting her emotions overtake, right? She's still centering herself, trying to be stable, and understanding that she plays a part in this too. So while they're sitting with Dr. Pepper, she was talking about wanting Mitch, like all of those fears came up. And I was like, wow, I'm so proud of her because, that's really hard for someone to communicate about rejection sometimes. Like, oh my gosh, who wants to talk about you made me feel rejected? Like those, it hurts. It hurts to feel rejected. But those insecurities have just been sitting at the back of her head. And finally, she's getting that courage to tell Mitch, hey, like, how do you actually feel about me? I need to know. Now, did he actually say how he felt about? He probably said it. And I think he was honest, right? He respects her and he sees her as a friend. I don't know romantically how well they're developing, but this is also just, it's so important to understand how much you need to build yourself. Like continue to build yourself. Build yourself, build your confidence. Like why are you here as opposed to, looking too much to people to fulfill that for you. So I'm like, that's why you want to be very intentional when you're dating, looking for a partner, making sure that they choose you because you're going to get those insecurities, especially with Married at First Sight. You just don't know what you're going to get. That's like you're throwing that the confidence of that, I guess, the certainty, the percentage of certainty out the window when you're signing up for someone who doesn't know you at your core, as opposed to the list of attributes and traits and habits that you have on a piece of paper, which couldn't possibly culminate to fully seeing you, your heart as a person, and your deepest subconscious fears. So yeah, I'm proud of Kristen. I think that therapy session with Dr. Pepper was fantastic. I'm glad she finally got it off her shoulder and she's like, I'm tired. But girl, you're tired because you've been doing this for a long time to yourself. And it's time to take accountability, time to understand that you can create a different experience for yourself. And that's the first, like the most empowering step is knowing that you have full control. And it's an illusion to think that people have control over you. Yes, they influence you, but they don't have control over you. You can decide whether this is your partner or not your partner. You deserve, every single woman, you deserve to be treated like a queen, to be treated like royalty. Absolutely. But you have to recognize that within yourself first. And it's just a painful reality reflected back to you. You're not treating yourself like a queen when you're looking to someone else and you're like, do you like me? Like when you're in high school, do you like me? I know we get those feelings, but in a marriage, if you're feeling that way in a marriage, for sure, that's something you want to take care of way ahead of time and make sure I like me. I love me. I'm a fantastic catch, and you would be lucky to have me in my energy. But you don't want to have to prove your worth all the time, right? So she's been feeling like she's had to prove her worth for some time, and she's doing it again, and she's been caught up in situations after situations, and now it's just all coming out, right? But the good thing about her being with Mitch is he's a really good guy. He's honest, sincere, humble, and yeah, he's very forthcoming about his flaws. So Mitch was talking about his experience. He was honest about how the divorce really affected him with his parents. He became more rebellious after his father left. He was basically a latchkey kid, roamed around, wasn't really given structure, nor that like the masculine structure in his life or discipline in his life. So it took him longer to mature into himself. I love that. Self-awareness is like on a 10. It's on a 10, Mitch. You're doing great. You're doing fantastic. Yeah, he was talking about that and he shed those tears. He was really hurt, his father passing away, it really affected him. Him finding himself really affected him, but in spite of that, he's still trying to do his best to be a good person and to contribute. And I think that's fantastic. And that's what helped Kristen to kind of recognize, oh, wow, I can see your heart and I can see more into you. And now I'm not so mad about why are you so rebellious and why do you do this? But that's just that's the best thing that could happen for a friendship or a partnership is you really understanding why do you do what you do? like what's going on? What was for the most of us, that inner child, that childhood trauma experience that happens that created this for you. So he's still processing it, but I really get a sense that he's just very self-aware and he catches himself. And I love that. And I feel like he just has such a good heart. Now, as far as the romance goes between the two of them, I do still see Kristen leaning on him a lot. And yeah, I'll say this about some of the other women too. She's leaning on him a lot. It's like, physical touch. I think it's great. I think she's just I sense that she's very empathetic. Like she picks up people's energies and she just knows how to comfort people. And she's a very comforting person, very giving person. But just make sure he's leaning into you, right? He's coming towards you. And the thing is, if you're, focusing more on yourself and your inner work, which I'm like, inner work is rich. For a woman, it's expensive. When you do your inner work, it's like the most expensive honey, the most expensive nectar. It makes you very magnetic. And then if you just let your partner come towards you, then now you're not going to have this insecurity at the back of your head of like, oh, do you like me? Because they're coming towards you. Obviously, you can see it. And masculines, they show it through their actions. They'll show you, they'll come towards you. And that's why communication it can be reassuring, but it's not as reassuring as actions. So those two are proceeding forward. Again, I like their friendship. I think they have a genuine friendship. I like their connection. I like their vibe. I like that they're both honest people. And most importantly, that they're both actually working on themselves. In this show, that's what I want to see. If you're not really feeling the chemistry, if that's hard to get a grasp of, at least try and learn from the experience of like, what are your needs? What do you desire for in a partnership? What do you want? Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to our next couple. I'm just going to brighten that a little bit more. Okay, so our next couple is Alexis and Justin. So as far as Alexis and Justin goes, apparently Alexis forgave Justin, right? She said that she didn't like that they had that argument at the dinner. And she's just like, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to just forgive, right? Because I could sense, and we could all sense, she was holding on to something there. She was holding on to something there. But there are some key things that are not being fully acknowledged. And I think Nate also addressed one of the issues during the after party, which Nate has been amazing as far as feedback goes. He's very aware of certain things going on. He's very observant. So Nate took note that, Alexis, right? Justin's wife overheard his conversation and ran to Morgan to spew this story, one that should have been kept in the household. It shouldn't have been, spread about. And I appreciated him saying that in the after party. He addressed that. So Alexis, to me, is still needing to take accountability for some of her actions. And one of those actions is how she reacted with the Ben and Morgan situation. But overall, I think my thing with Alexis is, I like her vibe. I like her energy. She's just like very flowy. There's just something about her. Yet at the same time, I don't think she's fully taking accountability for certain things. So like one of the things I noted is that she has a tendency almost very slightly to put her husband down, Justin. Like where she's like, my husband wanted to fly a kite. Okay, I know he's sensitive, but he wanted to fly a kite. I'm just like, what's wrong with flying a kite? So like this is kind of like my issue sometimes. This is my personal issue. Hold on, let me get back to the page. I lost it. With people sometimes is they have like certain ideologies and they're like, okay, apparently the way that I see the world is like the right way. But I'm like, that's what's great about being in a connection, is not just seeing the world from your perspective, opening your mind, sharing your person's perspective, sharing what their perspective is, seeing life through their lens, or trying to anyways, just experiencing that. And sometimes I feel like women have a certain idea about what masculine energy is, right? What masculine energy is and how like a man is supposed to behave and acts and whatnot. And they have certain assumptions and judgments. It's subtle, right? The thing is, I don't think she even notices she's doing it, because I think she's like open. She's like, I'm wanting to be accepting, and I see myself as an accepting person. That's how I feel like she talks or thinks of herself, is like she feels like she's a very accepting and open person. But there are certain like things that seem a little bit stuck to me. So I caught that is she seemed a bit judgmental towards him flying the kite, right? And on top of that, she's called him out many times, like, "Oh, you're celibate," told everybody. There's just this thing about her. It's like a subtle, I guess you could call it masculine energy. I don't know what you identify it as, but Western women like us in America, we have a tendency of like being just like really masculine sometimes. And oh my gosh, boy, have I seen this where but you're like competing with your man, you're competing with your guy. And I'm just like, what? Well, he's your partner. But I'm like, again, if you don't know, if you haven't seen anything else, she admitted this is the beauty of self awareness. She admitted that she's hyper independent. And so she's still needing to learn how to merge with that, merge into her feminine energy and like, how do I create that polarity in my relationship with the masculine energy? Just something to be aware of. But at the same time, to me, regardless of whether it's masculine or feminine, I'm just like, if he wants to fly a kite, he can fly a kite. Like I don't get it. You know, it's just overall, it's this tendency of being judgmental towards your partner. I'm like, it's unnecessary. They are who they are. They like what they like. Um, support them, um, support them energetically too, and also I just want her to self-reflect on why she is judgmental about that. Those things. Why are you judging him? Why? I know, yes, he is sensitive. Yes, we all know he cries a lot. Yes. But like, why is him flying a kite? Also, be honest too. Is it a turnoff for you? Maybe we're needing to be more honest about that. Like, is it a turnoff? Does that make you less attracted to your partner? These are like important things for you to know because then moving forward, okay, that's not what I'm looking for in a partner. That kind of turns me off. This is what I'm looking for, as opposed to trying to mold someone, right? I think that's probably one of the most painful experiences is when you're in a relationship with someone and you guys try to mold each other as opposed to growing together. When you try to mold someone, then they can't fully be themselves and it's just so restricting. So just something to watch for that. Her self-awareness. And so with Justin, with him, it's like the emotional up and down, the ups and downs, the inconsistencies with his emotion he's having to watch out for. He was talking about his brother and how his brother basically raised him. They're 6 years apart. His brother was 19, raising a 13-year-old, telling him to figure it out, figure it out. Now, as far as I'm concerned, that's kind of lazy raising, but I know his brother was doing the best he could. Telling a kid to figure it out isn't really raising a kid. Basically, you're also you're forcing them to be maybe independent as well. He also talked about how his mother, in the after party, he talked about how his mother told him to let his emotions out. His brother told him to hold things in. And so that's why he has these, like, I guess, conflicting experiences with his emotions where he cries, he does let it out and it feels good. Yet at the same time, um, there's this anger inside, right? So where does anger or defensiveness come from? It's like you're trying to defend something inside of you. You're trying to protect something inside of you. What are you trying to protect? Usually it's something soft. It's like a fear. You're trying to protect something. So he's protective of something inside of himself. So I don't know. I feel like I feel like I'm explaining it, but it also feels abstract to me and I'm trying to pull at the ideas and put them together. But I feel like his upbringing made for that combination of Justin and who he is and how he expresses his emotions and whatnot. So yeah, he admitted that he's having to work on that. But I also feel like he's just also more committed when it comes to the relationship in general because he's having to get rid of his dog, which I'm just like, what? Um, I would, I see, this is to me, that is masculine energy. When a guy takes action and they're like, okay, I'll do whatever I need to do to make sure you're comfortable, that is very masculine energy. So let us not mistake what masculine energy is. That is very masculine energy. The main issue, though, is that I almost feel like Alexis is lacking empathy or sympathy or something, or just like an emotional connection. Because just the way that she's talked about Justin to me and also treated him and deflected at times, right? He was agitating her when they were at that dinner, he was trying to tell, Justin was trying to tell her to speak because he could sense something was off. Hello guys, I am back. So I totally forgot to recharge my camera battery, so I had to hook it up for a minute. And because I don't want to wait all night, I charged it halfway. I have two batteries, so hopefully by the time I'm done with this video or this part, it'll be done charging. Okay. So we were talking about Alexis and Justin last. Not really sure where I ended off other than, Justin has to work on his emotions. Alexis has to work on her part of the equation as well with the self-awareness. And if they continue to do that, then honestly, I don't see them really proceeding forward. I'm sensing that there's something amiss between Justin and Alexis that is not being spoken. It's unspoken. So I don't really know, right? It just seems like they're continuing to hit walls. And I think a lot of that has to do with Alexis. So here's the thing. Typically, a relationship won't proceed forward unless you're decisive or you know what you want, right? Being decisive is important in a partnership. Being decisive is very important in a connection. So I'm like, if it's not proceeding forward, I can see that Justin's following her lead and she's not, proceeding forward, I think, with the love necessarily. It's a little confusing because, physically they're connected, but there's some unspoken things going on between the two of them where it just seems like they're not quite on the same page. And a few times she's been very direct in terms of saying, no, I wouldn't want to be in this partnership. I would probably break up. That's my straw sticking up. I would probably not choose to be in this connection if I had the option to. So yeah, I just think Alexis has some maturity or maturation to do for herself. And Justin, he's trying his best considering the circumstances and considering the way he handles his emotions. Okay, I feel like I'm being really redundant. So go ahead and let me know. Thank you for you guys' comments. So yeah, I will go back to the comments at the end of the video just to share a little bit of my feedback. So let's go ahead and move on to Stasia and Nate. So Stasia and Nate are progressing very nicely. Nate took Stasia to his childhood home experience where, actually, let's go ahead and talk about the visit with Dr. Pepper. So with Dr. Pepper, um, Dr. Pepper reinforced this idea that Nate processes or is processing emotions differently and that he's not Stasia. And just like I said in my previous review, men, period, masculine energy, they process emotions different. And so I do find it funny because I'm like, he's a guy. He doesn't, you might be over here when it comes to the love or the in love, but they process it differently. And I forgot to mention in my previous video, I was like, yes, every guy, they always say, oh, it's the heart. It was her hearts. They always say that. But they also show their affection or they fall in love through providing and protecting. So it's like if they're protective of you and they're providing for you, they're falling in love with you. All right. If they're not doing those things, it's so easy for them to just like emotionally detach because they're just not committed. So that's when like make sure he's showing you through his actions, like he's showing you he wants to protect you, he wants to be there for you and be supportive of you, and that's how you'll know he's interested in actually being a long-term partner, a committed partner. Yeah, so they show emotions differently, they process emotions differently, and Stasia is opening up and is welcoming this. She's like, oh yeah, okay, it is different, and I have to be patient with letting him take his time. Yes, all of that is important. So Nate took Stasia back to his childhood home. He talked about how his father was like a single father, essentially, and did all of this work to take care of his kids. His father started tearing up, and he was like, that was the first time he saw his father cry. And I was like, that's the first time? I'm like, what? That's the first time? That's crazy. So that's crazy. So his father teared up, and his father has never really seen him tear up. And I know, of course, I understand why people do this, right? It's a survival thing. It's like we can't tear or cry because it's a sign of weakness. That's what we think. But unfortunately, it also numbs you and it blocks you off to a lot of emotions and accessing your emotional landscape. So hopefully people come to understanding that emotions are important to express. And if you can't show them how to do it, educate yourself, find books, watch videos on how to help your kids process their emotions because it is important. Otherwise, they're going to be hitting blockages at every step. I think the primary thing that came up with Nate was like some insecurities he had gone through throughout school and with other kids, but he learned how to rebuild his confidence in spite of it. And I think he is quite a stable force. I think as far as masculine energy goes, he's very dialed in, right? Very stable, logical, disciplined. Like he has all of these masculine attributes. I think Stasia can be a wonderful way to help him balance those energies out or those other energies out as well. So Stasia took Nate to meet with a family that she had spent a lot of time with, and she also took him to see her childhood home, where she talked about how her siblings were very independent because her mom was going to school and working all the time. She also talks about how she was a go-getter, a hustler from the get-go. She had insecurities. She specifically mentioned popularity. You know, I always keywords, right? Because I'm like, popularity was never something I was interested in. I was like, I don't care. Like, have you guys ever seen Romy and Michelle's high school reunion? Like, who cares about popularity? The popular kids don't. That's not where it's at. Okay, so that is not where it's at. I always just believed. I don't know. I didn't care about popularity. It even in books, I was like read about like the kids. It just always seemed like a mess, right? Because it's like an ego contest where you're trying to like build yourself. Plus, a lot of those kids, you know, they experience a lot of peer pressure early on. I'm like, thankfully I didn't have any of that. I was just doing my work, getting A's in class, okay, and focusing on myself and my building my skills and my artistic pursuits. So yeah, popularity is just funny to me. But yeah, some people do aim for popularity because, you know, you're taught that that's like a status symbol or a status representation of like what's important in life. And for Stasia, that was one of those things for her. Or it was like an insecurity for her. But she was quite introverted kid. And in fact, her and Nate have a lot of similarities. Both of them are hustlers. Both of them had sort of that single parent homes. And both of them were determined to make something of themselves. So I really like how their stories are connecting with each other. All in all, I think they're growing together and they're coming out to be a very like consistent couple. So we'll see how things proceed forward because, you know, obviously the main issues that had popped up in the previous episodes was sometimes Nate has had times where he's a little immature, right? Those have come out. But I'm so glad that even in spite of him saying, "Oh, I give up," he didn't give up, right? He still actually put in the work. And Stasia too, in spite of her wanting to be impatient and getting overly emotional and like being needy and wanting him to meet her expectations sooner than later, she's coming to understand and be more open and self-aware to like, okay, it takes time, right? She's needing to mature into this. But I like how giddy she is around him. Hopefully, she learns how to understand not to lean so into her masculine energy when she's around him, or reinforce that as again a symbol. Because I'm like, men, they fall in love through being able to provide and protect for you. So I'm like, if he offers that, even if he's making less than you, it doesn't matter. Accept it because it's his way of showing you I'm here to support you. I want to be your support system. Now if you take that away from him, now he's like, wait, what do I do with all this masculine energy of wanting to provide and take care of you and protect you? What do I do with it? You know, where do I put it? And this is why infidelity often comes up, because now a guy's looking for someone. I know that sounds crazy, but they're looking for someone to feel that experience, that polarity, that attraction with, right? So that's not something we want to deprive our partners of. We're like, okay, let's give the experience, see, let's create the polarity, the attraction, the awesomeness, the energy, the enthusiasm. Okay, it's getting weird. All in all, I think the two of them are doing good together. They seem solid so far. All right, moving on to our final couple, a mess. Morgan and Ben. Yeah, I mean, most definitely, I am getting tired of seeing Morgan on. This is my personal opinion. I'm getting tired of seeing Morgan on TV because every time she comes on, she's just so angry and hostile, just like Nate called her out on hostile, and most definitely unnecessarily so. Because I'm like, you don't even know this guy. Okay, so let's back up. Let's talk about the first experience. So the girls were all talking together, huddling together. The guys were having their huddle. They're all talking about the relationships. The girls decide, let's go ahead and bust in. And I'm just like, what the heck? Why? Why are you doing that? So that was an immature response on their part because it really kind of messed things up. But it also allowed them to have that discussion. And maybe it needed to be had. So Morgan's saying, "Okay, look, here's the thing. I'm like so annoyed with her. She keeps saying that she's been betrayed and stabbed. I'm like, mm, how? How? She said he lied to you, but he lied to you because he was scared, and he said that. But still, she's so focused on being betrayed and stabbed, and those are such strong words. So just another thing to keep in mind is think about the words that you use around the language you use around the things, because it will exaggerate how you feel sometimes more than is actually being created, and you won't have the clarity you need to understand what's going on because you're just saying like, "Oh my gosh, I've been betrayed. I've been stabbed." No one, like anyone who's been betrayed and been stabbed. Oh my gosh, that's horrible. You've been betrayed. You've been stabbed. Like that would scare me too. But it's too much. Um, she's very very angry, very very angry at all the things that have gone on in her life. She's very shut down, and she keeps blaming it on this poor guy who barely knows her, which is it's kind of funny because I'm just like, you don't even know him. You won't even get to know him and who he is. So it is unfortunate. It's just another case of frustration. Like we always get like at least one person every season, and she's the person where it's just like very frustrating. Your energy is very frustrating and very unpleasant to be around. But a really good example of a dominant, I don't know, what would you call that? Like when one person is dominant and the other person is right. So in this case, she's the dominant one, right? She's the one who's like, my energy's up. And guess usually what happens in relationships in like when you're having arguments is if someone is loud, the other person gets quiet, right? Because it's like an energy balance thing. Or if someone is very outspoken or is like a excessive communicator, the other person is reticent. So it's like if you want to create balance in your partnership, you just need to watch for that. Make sure you're not being excessive, but you have to have the self-awareness to know you're doing that. So it's just not there for her. Yeah, I'm team Ben. You know, I don't care that he talks about her behind her back, and I don't even care that he didn't even tell her. I wouldn't tell her either. I'm not mad at him. It's not crazy. It's not shocking at all because I'm like, how can you talk to that, right? She's like, "Well, if he had just told me." And every time she's having a therapy session with the professionals, the experts, she's always like, "Oh yeah, I should have created a safe space for him. I should have did this if I had done that." But she doesn't do any of it. I'm just like, "Whoa." So they call that like level 1 awareness, basically, where you have like the language, like you read the self-help books, you kind of know what you're doing, but you don't know how to apply it at all. And a lot of us do this. We like talk about it, talk about it, talk about it, but we don't know how to embody it and actually apply it. So it's just something to stay aware of. Make sure you're actually embodying the philosophy you're wanting to embrace in life. It's great to talk, but unfortunately, she just keeps rejecting Ben left and right when given the opportunity to read her letter about her childhood. Nada. She moved out. She's exited. And as far as, Ben goes, he just has to understand to speak up for himself, know his worth, because that's the lesson that's being thrown in his face. These things happen for a reason, just like Lindsay and what's his name from was it Mark? Yeah, Lindsay and Mark from last season. She was up here and he was down here. I'm like, that's because you have to learn how to stand up for yourself. Why is a bully showing up in your life again? It's like an energetic pull. It's like you're being drawn to these people because it's a lesson you're needing to learn. It's something within yourself. You're a magnet for it, right? Something in you is saying, I'm unworthy of people who actually genuinely care about me. So Ben mentioned he's like big personality. I'm having to heal from trauma. He's getting a lot of self-awareness, but again, from this situation, and I like the way he talks about things with the self-awareness, but I'm just like embody it. And the passivity, that's not going to serve you. You're allowed to stand up for yourself. You know, you're allowed to puff up your chest and get get a little stand up for yourself, right? That people pleasing needs to end now. And the way that you end people pleasing isn't saying, yes, I did wrong. No, no, no. We already know you're apologetic. You don't need to apologize a million times. She's taking it to the next level. Now you need to take yourself to the next level and evolve into that. Now that you have the self-awareness, oh, I'm a people pleaser and I have this trauma I'm still healing from. And I'm not really interested in handling someone with a strong personality. Now what am I going to do? What are the action steps? I'm going to take. And it's not people pleasing, right? It's not going to her and being smiley and be like, "Oh, hey, how can I please you?" No, that's not gonna solve you. You've been doing that. It's time to get mad. Like it's time to like let that anger out, let it out. Like get frustrated. You're allowed to be frustrated. You're allowed to just speak up for yourself. I'm not saying, but anger has um a use. All of our emotions have a use. So use it. Use your anger, let it show you the way. And don't like use it to hurt someone, but you can use anger to motivate you to like speak your truth. You can use anger to be direct and honest with yourself about what isn't working, but anger is usually about needing to step up somehow and like be truly vulnerable also. Yeah, so I don't know, there's really nothing else to say. Morgan is displaying abusive tendencies. It's not great. The internet does not like her right now. So she's probably very aware that she's doing this at this point. If she's watching people talk about her or hearing people talk about her, people are becoming very aware, and she's maybe also becoming more aware of this energy is not okay. The thing is, you put out bad energy into the universe, you get it back. That's just the way it works. Period. You put it out, you get it back. Um and it's not fun all the time, but it's like if you're willing to learn, you can evolve. You can turn into a beautiful butterfly and learn from the situation. Okay. So that is my final couple. I'm going to go ahead and I want to look at these comments really quick that you guys have written. So let me see what we got here. Kristen is giving way too much of herself, and I think Mitch values is a way of living too much to compromise at this point. The other couples are a write-off. Oh, a write-off. Okay. What is it? A write-off? Doesn't that mean it's not going to work out? Okay. Interesting. Okay, so someone brought up this discussion about women growing up in a hostile environment and us needing to educate ourselves. So I want to speak to the educate yourself. Um, no. Yeah, like as far as educating yourself and how we're not educated about certain things in school. Yeah, there's a lot of things we're not educated in school. And honestly, I would want to give my kids a head start and let them know, hey, I want you guys to start learning these things now so that when you go out into the world and you're an independent adult, you are prepared. So I would take it upon myself as a parent to educate my kids ahead of time if I can, because I've learned how important education and re-education is. I would also say when it comes to education, most people don't ask for education. There's free information everywhere. Everywhere. There's free information everywhere. There is not an excuse as far as like developing somewhere. Like if you want to learn how to develop your spirituality, if you want to learn how to invest money, if you want to learn how to get a degree, there's free information everywhere. So as far as educating and us as people and as women needing to educate ourselves, what I do is I prayed. Is I just like asked, I'm like, okay, God, please send me the people, the resources, or whatever I need for me to get to where I need to go. And then bam, something would show up and I would just like, oh, okay, great. And so I've had a lot of teachers in my life, a lot of videos and books. I'm an insane at consuming like the knowledge that I love learning, and I love learning like about psychology and learning about myself, and so I'm always like re-educating myself on how to improve, and I feel like I'm never gonna get bored because I'm like every year I'm learning something more about myself and about how life works. So we have to ask for help to be sent our way, and then also choose to absorb the information. So yeah, the way the world works, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, my personal belief is that you can always create the reality that you want. You can always create the life that you want. It's just a matter of you asking. I believe in asking the universe for guidance and just being like, okay, what do I need to do to create this life for myself that I've always desired? Because I had years where I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm lost. I'm depressed. What do I do? Please help me. And there was always a saving grace. There was always something that showed up in my life, and I'm always grateful for that. So yeah, we need to choose to re-educate ourselves, most definitely. The education in schools, no, they don't educate you properly on what you need to do. Um, so as an adult, that's why I always say adulthood is amazing, because that's when you have the opportunity to really ask for what you need. Okay, the last one is something the whole what this whole Married at First Sight journey has shown me is that no one loves unconditionally. There are always conditions. Interesting. Yes, love, uh, for the most part, all relationships have conditions. All relationships, even a mother to child, which we call the most unconditional. Every relationship has a condition because there's an exchange. Um, I think sometimes the glamour of unconditional love can look so desirable. What we're wanting to do is we're wanting to move towards it or experience some of it, right? A freedom. I feel like relationships should express or to some degree make you feel free, like free to be yourself, free to be authentic. And so we should be aiming for it, but I would never pressure myself to be like, you need to unconditionally love me or I need to unconditionally love you. No, I have expectations. Yeah, no, I want you to be a responsible adult. I want you to be emotionally mature and stable. Um, but flexibility, yes, that's what we're looking for. Do we unconditionally no one unconditionally loves? I don't think so, because we are always looking for an exchange of energy, and we always need certain things from each other. Like, we need each other to be responsible, available, emotionally available for things to work and move. Yeah, and I think that's perfectly fine, and specifically when it comes to marriage, you should have conditions, because you wouldn't just wanna marry anyone. You would wanna have a set of standards of, like, "Okay, like, this is my expectations for what I'm wanting to create with someone, just so you guys have a foundation. So yeah, conditions to me are about creating a foundation. Without the conditions, we don't really know where we stand, right? As just opposed to just being thrown together. I'm like, that could be cool, but there we need stability, period, in life. And the thing is, stability is also an illusion because we're always going to be fluctuating as humans. And that's what we're looking for. It's like, can you love me enough at my worst or my best, and like all the parts of me and me in all of my forms and all of my expressions, can you love me? That's what we're asking for. It's like, can you love all the parts of me? Yeah. But very interesting. Um I think I broke free of the glamour of unconditional love, because I realized we all have certain standards and it's okay. I have needs. Like, as far as my parents love me in a certain way and they expect certain things from me, and I expect certain things from them. And I'm like, that's perfectly fine. I think it's perfectly fine. Just, I free myself of, like, if my parents expect something from me that I can't give them, I'm like, oh well. Like, I don't force myself to make myself give them something I can't give them. I'm just like, here I am. I'm here to love you as I am, and let's do this. But unconditional love is kind of like it's like a goal that we kind of aim for. We're always aiming for it, but we're never going to get there. It's like perfectionism. You're never going to get there, but you can kind of set it as a standard so you know what to like work on. So you know what you can work more on. It always gives you an idea of like, okay, what can we work more towards? How can we create more freedom in our relationship so it's healthy and we're both getting what we need? Yeah. Okay, so I think that's the final one. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a beautiful day or evening. Like, subscribe to support the channel, and yeah, we'll see what I don't know. I'm kind of interested in creating more content, but I think this is working for now, right? Just these Married at First Sight reviews, and you guys are enjoying this, and this is what you guys are here for. So I want to give you that experience. Have a beautiful day or evening.